Destiny 2 has a total of 115 craftable weapons that you can use in your loadout. On top of this, there may even be more than 6 weapons per category, like the pulse rifles, that you can choose from to pick which weapon that you want to craft. So in today's video, I want to pick one weapon from each category that is a must-have craft in Season 21 and going into the future of Destiny 2. Now, because there are so many different variants of each weapon, and each weapon can be useful in its own situation, these are just my general best picks for the sandbox of Destiny 2. Obviously, whichever build you're choosing to pick, whether it's a Void build or an Arc build, each weapon can be different, so these are just my picks for the basis of Destiny 2. Each of these weapons will cover most of Destiny 2's content, whether that be a raid, a solo GM, or even just a simple nightfall. So let's get straight into this list. Starting off the list with auto rifles, my number one pick is the Rufus's Fury from the raid Root of Nightmares. Now just quickly, as I'm going through this list and I name off each weapon, I'm also going to tell you guys the most popular perk combination for each weapon according to light.gg. This way you guys know exactly what to craft and what to put on it once you've crafted it. The most popular perk combination on the Rufus's Fury is Reconstruction and Target Lock. Having Reconstruction on this gun makes sure that you have a huge magazine to take out a lot of adds, and having the added Target Lock can help you kill some of those harder enemies. The best thing about Reconstruction is you can dump the whole mag and then switch to your special weapon and then wait for this weapon to automatically reload so that you can pull it back out in a couple more seconds. Moving on to bows, we have the Under Your Skin. I specifically chose this bow because it is Void, and Void builds seem to be some of the most popular builds in Destiny 2, especially with the previous 2 seasons having great artifact perks to boost these Void builds. This weapon can roll with Archer's Tempo and Explosive Head, which can work very well with volatile rounds if you can get that procced on your Void subclass. Up next, we have hand cannons, which is something you Guardians definitely need to be looking out for in PvE for next season. Hand cannons next season are getting the biggest buff that they have ever had in Destiny 2's history, meaning they are definitely going to be meta with a huge damage boost in PvE. My choice of hand cannon is the Nation of Beasts, which comes from the Last Wish raid. With this weapon having arc damage, you can roll this gun with Dragonfly and Vault Shot, which is one hell of a perk combination. It is absolutely absurd what this hand cannon can really do. So if you missed out on that huge Cali farm that everyone was doing at the start of the season, head over to Hawthorne and pick up the Last Wish quest. Once you finish this quest, you can return to Hawthorne, hand it in, and you can guarantee yourself 1 red border, and I recommend picking the Nation of Beasts. Moving on to pulse rifles, I recommend that you guys craft the BXR 55 Battler. This weapon drops from Dares of Eternity. Unfortunately, the drop chance for red borders from Dares of Eternity seems to be really low because the loot pool for Dares of Eternity is really large, so I definitely recommend that you focus all of your engrams into weapons after you've finished a few runs. Now the gold roll for this weapon is Demolitionist and Incandescent, making it a really strong weapon to use with all of your solar builds. Up next, we have scout rifles, and my recommendation for you guys is the Doom of Chelchis. Why I chose this one? Again, it's a great Void weapon for all of your Void builds, but most importantly, it's one of the very few scout rifles and weapons in the game that can roll with 2 perks that add additional damage. You can craft this weapon with Frenzy and Explosive Payload, making it one of the best and highest DPS scout rifles in the game, which works very well for a lot of GMs. This weapon is always on my mind when I want to pick which weapons I'm using for my Grandmaster Nightfall each week, and this one drops from the King's Fall raid, so make sure you're doing some of them to try and get it crafted ASAP. Now as for the sidearms, I recommend the Michael's Reverence, which is easy to get from the Root of Nightmares raid. On top of this, it is a great strand weapon to use with all of your strand builds. The most popular perk combination for this gun is Rewind Rounds and Hatchling, which work super well together, especially with your strand subclasses. Root of Nightmares is a fairly easy raid to do, and there is plenty of groups always looking for a group to do it, so hit up an LFG and try and get it done. Up next, we have everyone's favorite, and that is the submachine guns, and my recommendation is the Callus Mini Tool. This is one of the harder weapons to craft in Destiny 2 right now because you can't actively farm it, and it is a old seasonal weapon. So this is where all of your deep side harmonizers are going to come in handy. The most popular perk combination for this is Unrelenting and Incandescent. These work very well together because every kill that Incandescent gets will proc Unrelenting, which will give you a small amount of health back, which is great for PvE. On top of this, if you play a solar Titan, getting kills with Incandescent will actually create sunspots, which is really good and really handy for all of you Solar Titans out there. Now as for fusion rifles, I would recommend the Royal Executioner, which was from Season 20. You can focus this at the helm right now. What's so good about this one is this one can roll with Envious Assassin and Reservoir Burst, meaning getting multi-kills with other weapons will overflow the magazine, proccing Reservoir Burst on multiple shots, which will give you a 25% damage boost in PvE. On top of this, it will also explode enemies. This is a great weapon for not only boss DPS, but also ad clear. Up next, we have the Glaives, which are the least used weapon in Destiny 2, purely because they are basically useless. Now, I wouldn't really recommend using Glaives in PvE, except for those very specific situations where you may need it, but if you were to use one, I definitely recommend getting the exotic Glaive for your class. For the Warlocks, this is the Edge of Intent, which you can consume a bullet into a healing turret. For the Hunters, it's the Edge of Concurrence, which turns your next shot into a ground tracking lightning bolt. And for Titans, it's the Edge of Action, which turns your next shot into a mini bubble. These are all pretty fun to use, and I would recommend getting them for your main class. It's quite a grindy quest, so unless you play Destiny a lot, just get the one for your main. Moving on to special grenade launchers, I would recommend the Forbearance. This is the best ad clear weapon in the game by far. You get this one from the Vow of Disciple raid. This weapon's most popular combination is Ambitious Assassin, meaning you can get 2 bullets in 1 magazine, and Chain Reaction, meaning that every single kill that you get with this waveframe will explode in a huge arc burst. Moving on to shotguns, I recommend crafting the Heritage, the Slug Shotgun. You can get this one from the Deepstone Crypt raid, and the most popular perk combination is Reconstruction and Recombination. This is almost a must-have slug shotgun that you will need for a few encounters in Destiny where shotguns are vital for doing huge DPS at close range. Pairing this with another slug shotgun like First In Last Out, meaning you can do some serious hot swapping slug shotty damage to a boss super quick. Moving on to snipers, I would recommend the Succession, which is also from the Deepstone Crypt raid. This weapon's most popular perk combination is Reconstruction and Vorpal. Now, although snipers haven't been the most popular weapons as they don't do as much damage as they should be doing, having a Succession with Reconstruction and Vorpal can still put out a decent solid amount of consistent damage. So jump in and start doing some Deepstone Crypt raiding. Now, as for trace rifles, I would recommend the Hollow Denial, one of the best trace rifles in Destiny 2, especially if you're going for that double special build. Now, unfortunately, this is the same weapon from the same season as the Callus Mini Tool, so you can't actively farm for it, so you're gonna have to wait for Xur or the Gunsmith to be selling it, and then you're gonna have to use your deep sight harmonizers on it to craft it. But boy, is this weapon worth it. It can roll with Lead from Gold and Repulsor Brace, meaning whenever you pick up heavy ammo, which you will be getting a lot of when you're running double special builds, it will grant this weapon ammo, and then whenever you get a kill, you're going to get an overshield from Repulsor Brace. This is an amazing weapon to pair with all of your Void builds, and especially if you're using a double special build, which means a lot of heavy ammo. If I was to pick one weapon from this list to craft, it would definitely be the Hollow Denial. So if Xur is ever selling this gun, make sure to buy it as many times as you need. Now, as for the heavy grenade launchers, I didn't really know which one to pick because they're all kind of useless. The best ones can drop from the Vanguard Nightfall like the Wendigo, but I would recommend the Regnant. Now, I've recommended this weapon because it is a Season 20 weapon that you can go and focus from the helm right now. On top of this, it can roll with auto-loading holster and explosive light, the best perk combination for DPS on grenade launchers. But if you really wanted to use a grenade launcher, I definitely recommend just farming some Nightfalls and getting a Wendigo. It is far superior and it is just better looking as well. Moving on to linear fusion rifles, I would recommend the Cataclysmic because it has the highest damage output for a linear fusion rifle. This weapon will also drop from the Vow of the Disciple raid, so if you're trying to get a Forbearance, try and get a Cataclysmic while you're at it too. This weapon can roll with Force times a charm and Bait and Switch, which is an amazing perk combination. Bait and Switch will increase your damage by 35%, and Fourth times a charm will add an extra few bullets into each magazine. So unless you're getting super technical with all of these stats and bonuses in Destiny 2, having a Cataclysmic with Bait and Switch is one of the harder hitting linear fusion rifles that I definitely recommend that you try and achieve. Now, moving on to machine guns, I personally would recommend the Commemoration from the Deepstone Crypt raid. Now, a lot of players are going to be arguing saying that the Retrofit Escapade is better, and really it's up to personal preference. But when you break it down into simple terms, machine guns are most effective at clearing a lot of ads, and having the ability to roll reconstruction with killing tally on the commemoration, this just makes this weapon an absolute monster. Once you have 3 stacks of killing tally, you're going to be doing 30% extra damage with this machine gun until you stop killing ads. Throw reconstruction into the mix, and this weapon is one hell of an ad clearing beast. Especially being void, you can also throw volatile rounds into it. It is one hell of a weapon, and I definitely recommend you trying to get one of these crafted. As for rockets, there is a clear winner. We have the Apex Predator from the Last Wish raid. This weapon can roll with reconstruction and bait and switch, meaning your rocket will auto load up to 2 bullets in the magazine, and on top of that have a 35% damage boost. Pair this with an Izanagi and some solar weapon boost, and you have one of the highest DPS combos in the game. It's one of the best ways to kill bosses in Destiny 2, so I would definitely recommend trying to get one crafted. And finally, to wrap this list up, we have swords, and there is no other option for a crafted sword except for the other half. The only reason you want this weapon is to get the perk Eager Edge, which is great for skating around and speedrunning all of Destiny 2's content. Being able to well skate and jump through encounters is super fun, and this one drops from Dares of Eternity. You only need one of these, but the drop chances are super low, so if you haven't got one, maybe even consider dropping a Deep Sight Harmonizer on it. But anyway, Guardians, those are my recommendations to you for your top tier craftable weapons in each category. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Consider dropping a like and subscribing for more content like this. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.